Exactly 1 year ago today, I took it upon myself to complete one of the most difficult Skyrim challenges ever. Many within the Bethesda community told me I was insane. Some even said I was insane in the membrane. Heck, some went even as far as to say I was insane in the brain. Now, did I take it personally? Yes. Did I cry myself to sleep like a poor, helpless little baby? Oh, for sure. But did I back down? Not even for a second. Not even for 2 seconds. And it was all because of that sheer determination that I finished Skyrim without killing and eating Nazim. Todd Howard, Bethesda, and even Microsoft itself all held a week-long fest in honor of me and gave me my own Starfield character. Well, they said they would, but to my knowledge, I'm not even in Starfield yet, so I don't know. I think they're waiting for me to make a video about Starfield, and I'll get around to it. I'll get around to it after I've done Battlespire. But anyway, about a week ago, Todd Howard called me up and said that he was feeling a little bit down lately. He told me that nobody likes Morrowind because it's impossible to even finish. Now, like you, I'm an Elder Scrolls fan, and just like you, I know that the third game in the series is hands down the worst thing Bethesda's ever made. Heck, possibly even the worst thing ever put to any video game ever. IGN famously gave it a -1 out of 10 and said that there was, quote, too much freedom, and they even went as far as to say that, and again I quote, the big box it came in had too many sharp corners. PC Gamer said upon Morrowind's launch back in 2002 that it was, I quote again here, not as good as Skyrim will be in 2011, and they wish that they would remove the spears because spears suck. Those negative reviews impacted Todd, and he said that he worked really hard to make Morrowind single-handedly, and he wished that somebody was brave enough, skilled enough, and strong enough to show the world that it is possible to finish Morrowind. And that's the moment I said, don't you worry, Todd, I know just the man for the job. So I called up Henry Cavill, but he said that he was too busy to do it, so I called up the next person, me. And here I am, pals, here to once and for all ask and answer the question, can you beat Morrowind? Well, let's find out together. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. The start of this challenge started when I double-clicked the game, and that was the hardest part so far, and I almost gave up, but somehow I powered through. I booted the game up and clicked New Game, and away I went. After a cutscene, I awoke on a boat and was told to give myself a name, so I named myself God Howard, named after the original main man himself, Todd with 2 Ds. The real OGG, which stands for Original Game Programmer. Only programmer is spelt the old English way with the, silent G in front of it. I think that's how they used to spell it back in the old times when they were building the pyramids. Not too many people know about this, but a lot of programmers were used in the making of the pyramids to, code all the big blocks into place. But it doesn't matter. Look, the point is, this isn't a history video, it's a challenge video. The best challenge video on YouTube, I might add. Anyway, God Howard left the boat and was asked his profession, which of course is the one true God. And after that, he was unleashed upon the world. But what do you do next? Well, that's easy. To finish Morrowind, you must follow the main quest of the game, which starts with us becoming an Amazon delivery driver, getting a sealed package, and taking it over to a man named Caius Custodes. Or Custodes. Or Cossides. Look, it doesn't matter. Who are we to say how it's pronounced? Do you know what I'm saying? Morrowind was made back way before people could even talk. So, look, let's not, mince words here. It's Caius, okay? Let's move on. Moving on. We gotta take the package over to a place called Balmora and deliver it to Caius there, okay? Easy. But first I wanted to get my bearings and learn the lay of the land. Meet the locals, take some selfies, that sort of a thing. The first fellow I met was a wood elf who smelled rather strange. Kinda like stagnant swamp water? It might just be the town as a whole though, so I'm not quite sure. Either way, something smelled. And either way, this was Fargoth. The fellow told me that he had lost his ring recently and wanted it back, and as luck would have it, I already found his ring. So I handed it back to him, and he became my bestest best friend. I wanted to bring him along on my adventure, but he said he was coming down with a bad case of lumbago, and he felt I didn't want to get sick with it, so I just kind of left him behind and continued on my way. The town itself was filled with many things to do, and the list just goes on and on and on. Like, for example, after dealing with Fargoth, I helped a man accept the fact that he hated his life, his home, his friends, and nothing in this world, well, at least in this backwoods swamp of a town, would ever bring him true happiness. So I gave him 100 gold to escape this hellscape. And then after that, I freed some slaves from a cave, and I killed the evil bandits within there, and I took something called moon sugar, and then I found a dead body, and then I set out to solve an impossible to solve mystery, like who killed this man and why. And thankfully, because I'm so amazing at playing video games, I was able to solve that impossible to solve mystery. It was this guy. He did it, and so, as payment, I killed him back, and I killed him dead and got vengeance upon the dead man. And then I moved into his shack and left his dead body on the ground as a memento sort of a thing, This is my new home now, and this is how I got it sort of a thing, Of course you know. And then, of course, after that, I helped a man steal back all of Fargoth, the smelly wood elf's worldly possessions, because God Howard does whatever God Howard wants to do. So it also explains why Fargoth smells. He kept his all his worldly possessions in a dead tree stump in the middle of stagnant water. It's right here if you want to know where he keeps all his worldly possessions. Do with that information what you will, pals. Do with that information what you will. Anyway, after all that stuff, there was nothing left to do in this terrible, smelly backwoods town. So I decided, why not try some of this moon sugar I found in my new home? Really break the place in, So I ate some moon sugar next to the previous owner, and then I set off on my grand adventure towards Balmora. On the road to Balmora, God Howard picked up and ate some psychedelic mushrooms, which gave him a really bad trip because he hallucinated that somebody fell out of the sky and hit the ground in front of him, dead, just like that. And that was enough to make him swear off ever eating psychedelic mushrooms ever again. But that was just the start of God Howard's amazing cross-country adventure. Just outside of the first town, God Howard bumped into a bandit. However, he wasn't a bad guy. I mean, he is a bad guy, but that doesn't make him a bad guy. You know what I mean? Anyway, God Howard gave him some money, and as thanks, the bandit let him go and even gave him directions to the nearest town. God Howard, his feet just felt so tired, so he stopped off at this town, and when he did, he did some shopping and some drinking and chatted with the locals. And this is where he met her. The fluffy young Khajiit Anahasi. I think that's how you pronounce it. But again, Morrowind was made back before people even knew how to talk words. So, it's open to interpretation, So let's just move on and never bring this up in the comments ever again, shall we? Anyway, Anahasi, I mean, she was just impressed with God's smooth moves and wanted to be friends with him, so that's exactly what happened. They became friends. After a little bit of time, she told him about how there was some guy in a town somewhere who made her feel scared, so she wanted him dead. And, God Howard promised that if he was ever out that way, he would gladly murder the person who made her feel scared. So she thanked him, and the two parted ways. With everything in the town done, God Howard hit the road once again, but it wasn't long until he bumped into another soul on the road. This soul was a woman whose name I do not remember at all, but she asked him if he'd seen any hot studs lately. God Howard wasn't quite sure how to answer that, but she did end up explaining that she was robbed recently by a bandit with very soft hands, a strong chin, and abs you could grate cheese on, or something like that. The point is, she was in love, and she wanted to slide into his DMs, but didn't know where he was. Thankfully, God Howard is a pro at finding people, and he told the young woman that he would search high and low for the man of her dreams. And it didn't take long for God Howard to find him, mostly because I've already done this quest multiple times, and I know exactly where the man is, but let's ignore that for now. God Howard told the man that there was a lady out there who really liked him, and so the man said, "Sure, I'd hit that," and what? I'd hit that, and then gave God Howard a letter to give to the lady. That was his username on Snapchat or Instagram. Or whatever the kids use these days. And then God Howard took the letter to the lady and gave it to the lady, and the lady said thanks. And then she blushed, said some things under her breath that I'm not allowed to repeat, took a cold shower, and when she returned, she thanked God Howard again, and the two parted ways. Man, God Howard. Who knew he was like a matchmaker? He's like Will Smith from the movie Hitch, only if you took Will Smith out and replaced him with Todd Howard. But other than that, I mean, he's essentially Hitch. But anyway, the rest of the road trip was uneventful, and I was feeling good about my progress thus far. Morrowind didn't seem that hard at all, and I was beginning to wonder why this game has so much hate, and why nobody has ever finished it until now. But those thoughts would have to wait, because before I knew it, I was in Balmora, and now the game truly begins. Balmora, a city where men come to test their strength in the Fighters Guild, women start small businesses, and moist lizard people just walk back and forth in a never-ending cycle. It really is the city that has it all. Except for a KFC. Or Starbucks. Or 7-Eleven. But aside from those things, the city had it all. And a few other things. But that's okay, it has it all. But doesn't matter. We're here, and we're here to track down a possible person. Castist Custodes, or whatever his name was. Look, I can't remember. Todd Howard, you really should have given this man an easier name to remember and pronounce, like something like Guybrush Threepwood. Like, that's a name nobody could ever mispronounce or forget. But that, pals, was gonna have to wait, because first, God Howard had to celebrate this victory. So, he booked passage on a Silt Strider, returned back to Seydarnine, and he was just having some cravings for that moon sugar he tried out earlier, so he returned back to his shack, and only to find that somebody took his roommate away. The cheek of some people, man. Who clears out dead bodies from houses? It just makes no sense whatsoever. Doesn't matter. Look, either way, God Howard ate some crunchy moon sugar and just felt energized, And with that energy, he returned back to Balmora. So, now we're here back in Balmora. Where do we start searching for clues for Caius? Well, thankfully, looking in his journal, he got a clue. The South Wall Corner Club. God Howard made his way over there and started asking around if anybody knew how to find Caius. And thankfully, a guy knew exactly where to find Caius, and then gave God Howard directions, and God Howard made his way over there. At the house, God Howard knocked on the door and let himself in, only to find a half-naked, rather well-in-shape old man, and it turns out this crazy-looking old man is the very man we're looking for, Caius. He asked what we're doing in his house, especially with a shirt on, because shirts are not allowed in his house, and God Howard explains that he was sent to give him a package. Caius takes the package, opens it up, and reads the letter inside. It turns out Caius here is the Grand Master of a secret group known as the Blades. The Emperor wants Caius to investigate a growing mystery here in Morrowind, and wants Caius to recruit us to help him do that, because it turns out we might be special, some sort of chosen one. And with a name like God Howard, how could you ever disagree with the fact that this is a chosen one prophecy? Caius can't say no to the Emperor, so he recruits us. However, before we start the main mission of the game, Caius tells us that we have to go out and power up and get a power level of at least over 9,000, so until then, he wants us to go out and explore the world. And so, that's exactly what we do. Caius also tells us that we're welcome to stay in his house and eat moon sugar with him, not off of him. Whoops. Where's my mind at? Eat moon sugar with him. A prospect God Howard very much likes the sound of. But the moon sugar was gonna have to wait, as Caius points us in the direction of the Fighters Guild here in the city and suggests that we start leveling up there. So, it's off to the Fighters Guild. God Howard enters the Fighters Guild and speaks with the leader there to join up. She accepts him into their ranks and gives him his very first quest. Kill some rats in somebody's house. Easy! So, he heads on over to the house, kills the rats within, saves the helpless pillows that were in distress there, and returns back to the guild for his reward. But it isn't much of a reward, so God Howard returns back to the house with the now dead rats and steals all the stuff inside and sells it at the local used goods store. After that, he gets his second quest: kill some egg poachers from an egg mine close by. So, God Howard heads out of town and over to the mine. He walks through the dark maze of the mine, and I really should have turned up the brightness and contrast here, but, you know, hindsight, right? 2020 hindsight. Eventually, he finds the people he was looking for, the two egg poachers who were stealing eggs and selling them on the black market, doesn't matter, selling them on the black market. After killing the two, God searches the bodies and finds the stolen eggs, but rather than turn those eggs over to the proper authorities, God Howard gets an idea. Why not take these eggs and sell them for himself? After all, more gold in his pocket equals more gold in his pocket. And he likes the sound of that, so he takes the eggs and puts them into his backpack. But on the way out, he thinks to himself, you know what's better than a few eggs? More than that. So, he harvests more eggs on his way out of the mines. He returns to Balmora and speaks with the guild leader, and she thanks him for a job well done and pays him. Only, it really isn't that much, so God Howard goes with through with his plan and sells all the stolen eggs he got at the local used goods store. And you know what? Now he's happy with the job. With more gold in his pocket and happiness in his heart, God returns to Seydarneen and to that damp swamp shack for some well-earned rest and some moon sugar. Can't forget the sweet, sweet taste of that gritty texture. Yum yum moon sugar. However, God Howard wants to share this experience with his new pal Caius, so he takes the goods over to Caius's place, takes his shirt off, and the two chow down on the good, great, yummy stuff. And then God Howard awakens in the middle of the night to the sound of an assassin sneaking up on him, and he fights for his life. Now, Caius does what all the best warriors do and stands there very still and shirtless. It's a tactic that only a few masters have ever pulled off correctly. And sadly, God Howard isn't part of that, elite club yet, so he resorts to using his spear to fight and kill the assassin. Once the assassin is dead, God Howard tries to report the crime, but nobody cares, so he returns back to Caius's house and sleeps for the rest of the night. The next day, he wakes up and returns to the Fighters Guild for his next job. It turns out there are 4 Talvani agents who have been causing trouble in some nearby mines, and so it's God's job to lay the smackdown on them. So he suits up and heads over to their last known location. On the way, God finds a damn near fully naked man who begs for help. It turns out that this man ran into a witch who stole all his clothes and his prized axe and left him out in the cold. He wants to team up with God Howard and find and kill this witch. Simple enough, and it sounds like fun, so God accepts, and the two set out on the road and try looking for this witch. However, on their way, they bump into another person on the side of the road, a lady, and she introduces herself and asks if the 2 strapping lads would escort her, that's a new word, escort her to a town nearby. A town that just so happens to be the exact same town the fluffy young Khajiit, Anahasi, told God that there was that scary person who she wants dead, and he lives there. So, why not kill 2 cliff races with 1 giant boulder? So God Howard accepts the proposition, and the group trek across the countryside and eventually make it to the town of Narmok. Who cares? The woman thanks God, and for his help, she rewards him. But God isn't interested in the rewards. He didn't do it for the rewards. I mean, he did, but not for this reward. So God enters the town and begins his search for the evil, scary man. Thankfully, it doesn't take long to find him. However, things don't go as planned. You see, this man isn't just a simple pushover. Oh, no. This man is a strong man. And, I mean, I say he's strong, but, I mean, he's teaming up with 3 of his friends. So, I mean, it's like 4 against 2, and then one of the guys that I'm with is a naked man. So, I mean, it's not really much of a fight. So, God Howard gets the stuffing beaten out of him again and again, and again and again and again and again. So yeah, this isn't going exactly the way I planned. However, God Howard is nothing if not stubborn. So he keeps on fighting, and also gets the help of a skeleton and some magic spells, and that easily grants him victory. Fantastic. With that roadblock out of the way, God returns to Anahasi and tells her the good news. She thanks him and tells him that she's falling in love with him. And hey, who can blame her? This is God Howard we're talking about, you know? As thanks for helping, Anahasi tells God about a super secret stash of expensive and powerful items locked up within a vault in the town of Vivek. And she knows the location to the key to this vault, because as it turns out, Anahasi is actually part of the Thieves Guild. What a sneaky little kitty cat. Anyway, breaking into this vault is gonna have to wait, because it's at this moment that God Howard remembers the great big lumbering, half-naked, tattered-up Nordman following him around, and he actually was supposed to help this guy. So God Howard and his naked friend hit the road in search of the witch, and you know what, pals? It doesn't take long to find her at all, especially when you have the map from the unofficial Elder Scrolls wiki. But forget about that part, because right now we got to talk to the witch. And as it turns out, things are more complex than what they seem. She tells him that the Nordman was actually getting a little too friendly with her, and she didn't like that. So, to teach him a lesson, she stole his clothes, don't ask questions how she got them off, and his axe, again, don't ask questions, and promised to return those items to him in 3 days. But the Nordman isn't having any of that, so he lashes out and attacks God Howard, and sadly, God Howard has to kill his new naked Nord friend, sending him to the great big nude beach in the sky. R.I.P. In the arms of the angels, and so on and so forth. Anyway, the witch thanks God and continues on his way to find those Telvanni agents that he was actually sent out here to find and kill, and that he completely forgot about. However, God took the wrong turn and bumps into another naked man. Like, seriously, what is it with Morrowind and naked people? But anyway, look, this naked man tells God a story about how some witch paralyzed him and took his clothes. Seems oddly familiar, but any case, the naked man asks God if he has a potion to free him, and luckily, God has the potion that the man needs. So he gives him the potion, frees the man, and continues on his way. What will the naked man do now? Who knows? It's not our problem. But God Howard, eventually, after a few more side quests, finds his way to the Telvanni agents and wipes them out. That wasn't the right clip I was supposed to play. Oh, here it is. He wipes them out with no problem whatsoever. It was an easy fight and a good fight for God Howard and his mighty spear. It only took him one try. After that, God wonders why exactly they were here at those mines, and he wonders if it's got something to do with the ebony within those mines. And as such, he takes a short trip over to the ebony mines and has a little look around, and that's when he learns out the value of ebony. He wonders if the agents were selling the ebony on the side, kind of like the egg poachers, so God Howard does what God Howard wants to do and takes some of that ebony for himself and returns to Balmora. Back at the Fighters Guild, he reports in with the leader of the guild and gets his reward. But it really isn't that much, so he sells the ebony he stole on the side and makes a little bit of extra money. However, this begins to make him think that the Fighters Guild might not exactly be the life for him. Maybe Anahasi has the right idea. Maybe he should be a thief like her. But this is a big life-changing decision. It's gonna require some serious thought. So, God Howard grabs some moon sugar, heads over to Caius's crib, and the two party all night long. God Howard awakens naked in the middle of a stormy night on the streets of Balmora. He can't remember a thing from the night before, so it must have been a good night. The only thing he does remember is the sweet, sweet taste of that moon sugar. and the fact that he wanted to join the Thieves Guild. So he puts his clothes back on and gets to work. Now, first things first, the vault. God Howard remembers Anahasi's tip about the vault and the location of the key to said vault in the city of Vivek. So he heads on over to Vivek to get the key. Only one problem. Vivek sucks. You know it, I know it, Todd knows it, my mother knows it, Todd's mother knows it, your mailman knows it, and even the people living in Vivek know it. Now don't argue with me. God arrives in Vivek and begins his I wrote down journey here. Jorey. Don't know why autocorrect didn't catch that, but anyway, God arrives in the city of Vivek and begins his journey to find the key. Only this isn't the right way. Or this way. Wait a minute. No, that's the... wait, where am I right now? What is that? Why are these people attacking me? What did I do? Oh, here it is. Here it is. Nope, that's not right. Here it is. Okay, first try. God Howard locates the drawer in which the vault key is kept, but it quickly becomes apparent that God Howard lacks any and all skills required to become a thief. So, after trying and failing to get the key, he gives up and returns to Balmora. He needs to join the Thieves Guild in order to learn the basics of thievery. Thankfully, the guild isn't hard to find, and God speaks with the leader of the Thieves Guild, who not only lets him in, but gives him his very first mission. Steal a diamond from a shop close by. Simple enough. God Howard heads on over to the shop and locates the diamond, only it turns out it's not simple enough, because the owner is standing right in front of those diamonds. So, God Howard looks around the shop a little bit more and finds some other diamonds locked up in a chest upstairs. He takes the 3 diamonds within and returns to the guild leader to get his reward, and, even better, is allowed to keep the 2 extra diamonds he found. Nice! This is already more fun and profitable than the Fighters Guild. His next mission is to get a key to a house from a guy. Simple and straightforward. So, God leaves the guild, heads on over to a bar in town, tracks down the guy who has the key, sweet talks him, and then buys the key off of him for 100 gold. Now, is there a better way to go about getting this key? Yes, absolutely, but do I care? No, not at all. With the key in hand, God Howard returns to the guild leader and reports his success. She thanks him and gives him his next assignment. It turns out that there was a guy in the guild who stole some items of possible value? Hard to say, they're just like metal pipes. But anyway, he took these items and ran away from the guild, leaving it behind. And the guild leader wants God Howard to track down those items and bring them back. Easy. Consider it done. Yeah, so it turns out I couldn't do it. Well, I mean, I did it eventually, but I couldn't do it at the time. So thank goodness for being able to make easy money and paying people in this game how to teach you to do things. So after getting the stolen items, God Howard returns to Balmora and to the Thieves Guild leader to turn those items in. She thanks him and sends him on his way to do whatever he wants. But the question is, what does God Howard want? Well, it's simple, pals. He wants to use his newfound thief skills to finally break into the vault in Valmora. Vivek. Not Valmora. Look, doesn't matter. To break into the vault in Vivek. So, he returns to Vivek. Anyway, back in Vivek, God Howard makes his way over to the bedroom in which the key is located and gets to work stealing it. And yeah, okay, there's a fail here and there, but with enough time, anything is possible. And thankfully, God Howard has enough time and is able to get the key to the vault. Hooray! God Howard runs on over to the vault, unlocks the door, which none of the bank staff seem to find suspicious at all, and then he walks inside to find the holy grail of treasure. We're talking ebony armor, glass armor, money, jewels, magic swords, and for some reason, some food. I mean, if you want to lock up your food in a bank, go for it. I'm not your mother, but seems a bit questionable to me, but hey, whatever. God Howard steals what he can and then turns to leave, but karma stops him. But how exactly does karma do that? Well, that's simple. The god gets stuck in the doorway and refuses to move. Thankfully, God Howard isn't called God with 2 Ds for no reason. That extra D stands for do things your own way, man. And so, with his awesome powers, God Howard resets the AI of the game and finally walks out of the vault and in to the history books. And by history books, I mean he returns to Anaharsi and shows off all the cool stuff he stole. Impressed with his nimble hands and sick abilities to warp space and time, she falls in love with him and wants to be his girlfriend. But first, she has a boyfriend, a skooma-addicted boyfriend, and she wants his help, God's help that is, to get the boyfriend to break up with him and also cure his addiction to skooma. And God Howard, he's more than happy to do that for her. So he gets to work and heads, oh my god, back on over to Vivek to track down her boyfriend. God finds the man, and after a far too much time searching for him, he tells the man to just, stop it, get some help. And the boyfriend says, "You're right, skooma, who needs it? Not me. Thanks very much, God Howard. I'm gonna leave Morrowind and never return. You can be Anaharsi's new boyfriend," and then he left. So God Howard returns to Anaharsi with the good news, and you know what? She couldn't be more happy. She thanks God Howard, and even more than that, she tells God Howard, "You know what? Move into my house so we can be closer." And God Howard likes the sound of that, so the two become boyfriend and cat girlfriend. And to celebrate such a momentous occasion, God Howard returns to his old moldy home in Seydarneen and gives the place a proper send-off by chowing down on some month-old moon sugar. God Howard wakes up, naked and standing in a swamp. He knows his new girlfriend might be a little bit upset that he didn't come home, but probably more upset about the smell. I mean, have you ever stirred up the bottom of a swamp before? It stinks to high heaven. Trust me on that one. So, God Howard picks some flowers and returns to his cat girlfriend. And you know what? She's over the moon. And she says that the only way to make this moment more perfect is that she wants to see a special magic robe. Of course, somebody owns this special magic robe, but that won't be a problem. So God Howard heads on over to Vivek. Bloody Vivek. And then he heads on over there, steals the robe, which actually was not easy at all, let me tell you. But with the robe in hand, he returns to his special girl. And she looks at the robe, smiles, and tells him that there's one more thing that she wants to see. A pair of magical gloves. She takes God's hand and tells him that if he can get these gloves for her, she'll marry him. So God Howard runs out the door and sails to the location he needs, breaks into the castle, and by break into the castle, I mean that he literally just walked inside, opened the door with some magic, and took the gloves. But yeah, he broke into the castle. And then he, with the gloves in hand, returns back to Anahasi and shows her the gloves. And then, wedding bells, pals. That's right, the two get married, or at least as close as you can in Morrowind. And with love in his heart and a mighty need to celebrate, God Howard throws a big party over at Caius's place, and the two of them eat like 7 moon sugars each, and they dance until they get thirsty, and then when they're thirsty, they decide, you know what? Let's chug some skooma instead of wine. And then they just party on and on and on and on. God Howard wakes up, cold and shivering in some unknown location, his head pounding. He gathers his thoughts and bearings and notices that he's not actually wearing anything. I mean, he is wearing something. Caius's pants. I mean, that must have been one crazy party last night. I mean, gosh darn it. God Howard thinks it's probably best to head on over to Balmora and return Caius's pants. So he heads on over to Balmora, opens the door to Caius's house, and then he finds the man dead in the corner of the room. Oh no. Oh Lord, what has he done? God Howard runs out of the house, praying to the Nine Divine, but nobody answers his prayers. He knows that this is the end. I know that this is the end. It dawned on me in that moment that I failed. I failed this challenge. So with nothing else to do, God Howard goes back to the very start of the game, takes off all his clothes, and swims out to sea, letting the slaughterfish do their thing. I failed. The end. Well, this didn't go as I planned. I thought I could beat Morrowind. I thought that with all my skills I could do it. But it turns out Morrowind is impossible to beat. You can't even play the main mission of the game. It's impossible. It's totally impossible. Nobody can beat this game. So I went to confirm my suspicions. I went to YouTube and I found that Mortismal Gaming says that he finished the game, and he's like the proest pro that I know, aside from Henry Cavill, of course. But you know what? I'm starting to think that Mortismal Gaming might be lying. I bet he used console commands to do it. I see you, Mort. I see you. I did that same trick. That's what I did when I played Morrowind for my Morrowind video, which I now fully admit to doing. I'm sorry, pals. I lied. I used console commands to beat Morrowind the first time. And listen, if I can't do it, nobody can beat Morrowind. And so, with a heavy heart, I picked up the phone and I called Todd Howard to let him know the awful truth of what had happened. And he answered. And I told him. And he just started laughing. He knew I couldn't do it. He programmed Morrowind to be impossible to finish. Not just by me, but to everybody. He did this on purpose. He said that he put in so many side quests to distract players and gave them a whole world to explore and live in and pick mushrooms and go swimming and fall in love with cat girls. And, you know, he just wanted to see how long it would take me to throw in the towel. And I asked him, I said, Todd, why? After everything we've been through together, I went to your house. I ate food with you. We broke bread together. We were brothers. And you know what he said to me? He said, nobody was ever meant to finish Skyrim either, but somehow you did it. Your incredible and flawless gaming skills beat the hardest ever Elder Scrolls challenge about killing and eating Nazim, and you know what? That pissed me off. And now look at me. Who's laughing now? And then he hung up the phone. And here I am, pals. Here I am confessing my biggest failure to date. Maybe I'm not as great as I think I am. Maybe I shouldn't have tried to make the impossible possible. I flew just too gosh darn close to the sun. And I'm sorry. I failed you. And I hope that one day, maybe this exact day next year, maybe I can redeem myself in your eyes by doing some other challenge. And then, maybe, I can stand here and proudly say that I didn't make some sort of April Fool of myself. Until that day comes, pals, I am sorry. And I can only hope you'll find it in your Elder Scrolls heart to forgive me. Peace out, pals.
Just kidding.
Alright, you knew it, I knew it. I never made a secret of it. This was an April Fool's video. A terrible April Fool's video, but hey, it is what it is. Thanks for watching this far, and especially I wanted to give a massive, mega, super duper shout out to the people who have joined this channel and allow me to do dumb stuff like this. So, thank you, Family Dog, David Welch, TJ and Jack, Aaron, Amelia, Adam Myers, Miami Fred, The Rog, Joe Enderman, Anya the Khajiit, Kaz Pro, The Elder Irish, and Dude Prinny. Thank you to each and every one of you for joining this channel and supporting me. And thank you to everybody who watches my videos, especially if you watch all the way to the end. It means a whole lot to me, and I'm proud of you, so thank you for doing that. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you sooner than you think. Peace out, pals, again. Peace out, pals, again.